Syrian Arab Republic's delegation succeeds in giving the anti-terrorism provision priority in today's meeting, according to the Geneva I statement. Russia prepares for a draft resolution at the UN Security Council on combating terrorism in Syria. Huge popular marches are staged in Damascus, Daraa and Deir Ezzor in support of the Syrian Arab Army in its operations against the terrorist groups. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Irado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. During the joint session with the coalition delegation in the presence of the UN envoy to Syria, Al-Akhdar al-Ibrahimi, the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation succeeded in giving the provision of combating terrorism a priority in the discussions, according to the Geneva I statement. Sources close to the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation said the coalition delegation tried to start the talks about a transitional government, refusing to discuss any provision related to combating terrorism. However, the Syrian Arab delegation insisted on discussing the anti-terrorism provision first, according to the Geneva statement. The Syrian Arab delegation asked the other side to be up to the Syrian people's national aspirations in combating terrorism, because the Syrian citizens want to know if the other side wants to combat terrorism or would continue in its present policy. We have responded to the misreports presented by the other delegation yesterday with documents, figures and data which show the terrorist crimes and their destruction of infrastructure in Syria. The delegation said, so far there is no agenda agreed upon because the outcome of the Geneva II meeting should be reached with consensus. The Syrian official delegation had started the session calling for discussing the anti-terrorism provision and asking for a joint stand regarding the anti-terrorism statement which it had submitted earlier. The news correspondent to Geneva said a meeting will be held later today between the Syrian Arab Republic's chief delegate, Foreign and Expatriates Minister Walid al-Muallim and the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Gennady Gatilov, following the latter's meeting with the UN envoy to Syria, Al-Akhdar al-Ibrahimi. She added that the priority of Gatilov's talks in Geneva is a draft resolution Russia intends to submit to the UN Security Council as soon as possible on combating the terrorist danger in Syria. Member of the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation to Geneva II, the Deputy Foreign and Expatriates Minister, Dr. Faisal Miqdad, said in a press conference at the conclusion of the morning sessions that the coalition delegation started the session with talk about the transitional government, which contravenes the priority of the Geneva statement, whereas the Syrian official delegation started the session talking about terrorism and the need to stop it. Al-Miqdad said any change in the order of the Geneva statement provisions would be detrimental to the Geneva Conference. To discuss the end of terrorism and parallel with the transitional government is but an illusion that leads to no understanding, he added. Dr. Miqdad said there should be no change regarding the conference's agenda, affirming the Syrian delegation's adherence to the Geneva statement. Gennady Gatilov, the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister, announced that his country is preparing to submit a draft resolution at the UN Security Council on the issue of combating terrorism in Syria very soon. In a statement quoted by Russia Today TV channel, Gatilov pointed out that the draft resolution includes calling on all sides to take tangible steps to combat terrorism in Syria. He added that there is a necessity to confront the humanitarian situation in Syria, stressing that a draft resolution prepared by the Western countries at the UN Security Council on this regard is unacceptable because it can pave the way for military intervention. He made it clear in a statement upon his arrival in Geneva that a number of terrorist groups are active in Syria and they represent a real threat to the security of the whole region. Meanwhile, the French ambassador at the UN Security Council, Gérard Araud, acknowledged at the conclusion of a UN unofficial meeting last night that differences still exist between the West and Russia on a draft resolution on the humanitarian situation in Syria, which the US and other Western countries, under the pretext of improving the situation on the ground, whereas they seek to support the terrorists. Araud added that there is the need to continue debates of the level of experts. residents of Al-Midan neighborhood staged a huge march in support of the national principles and the operations of the Syrian Arab Army against terrorism. In support of the national principles and the ongoing operations of the Syrian Arab Army against the armed terrorist groups, a huge march was staged in Daraa al-Mahatta, cheering for the homeland, the valiant Syrian Arab Army, and national unity. Taking part in the march are the governor of Daraa and a number of concerned leaderships in the governorate. The people of Daraa raised national slogans glorifying the homeland and the Syrian Arab Army in the face of the terrorists, voicing determination to protect Syria and enhance its position in the region. In Daraa countryside, residents of the town of Tell Shhab staged a demonstration preventing the armed terrorist groups from building a camp in the agricultural plantation of Tell Shhab. The terrorists tried to set up the camp by using tents and equipment coming from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. A massive demonstration was staged today by the citizens of Al-Jura neighborhood in Deir Ezzor in support of the Syrian Arab Army in its operations against armed terrorist groups, stressing adherence to Syria's national principles. Thousands of Deir Ezzor citizens asserted their gratitude to the Syrian Arab Army's sacrifices in the face of the conspiracy, stressing the adherence to the national unity and to Syria's territorial integrity against the foreign interference. They also shouted slogans in support of the Syrian Arab Republic delegation in Geneva. 2 citizens were killed in a mortar shell attack carried out by the terrorists on the residential neighborhood of Al-Qusur in Deir Ezzor. Health Director Dr. Abd Najm Al-Abaid said that the 2 citizens died soon after they had been hospitalized into the National Hospital of Deir Ezzor, suffering from serious injuries from shrapnel of mortar shells fired on their neighborhood. Health Director added that 10 other citizens arrived at the hospital suffering from light and medium injuries. Earlier, a police source said that mortar shells were fired by the armed terrorist groups at Al-Qusur neighborhood, injuring 12 citizens, 2 of them seriously, and inflicting heavy material damage to the houses. Units of the Syrian Arab Army eliminated terrorists who were trying to attack citizens at Al-Hamidiyya in Aleppo and its suburbs, killing dozens of them. A military source said that army units also shot down a balloon carrying a surveillance camera launched by a terrorist group above Aleppo's central prison, as other units clashed with terrorists in adjacent areas, killing and wounding dozens of them. Army artillery shelled terrorist gatherings in 6 different villages and the industrial area, eliminating dozens of terrorists, and destroyed their vehicles and ammunition in Qadi Askar, Hanano, Karm Yassar and Al-Rashidin. Finally, a new shipment of humanitarian aid was sent to ancient homes to help the civilians who chose to stay there. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Gunjan, but after a short break.